Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another live stream. And Chelsea returned to action after the international break yesterday. And quite frankly, I think all Chelsea fans are wishing they hadn't. Another really disappointing day at Stamford Bridge. A 2-0 defeat to Unai Emery's Aston Villa means that the Blues drop into the bottom half of the table. We are now 11th. Which is quite depressing, I suppose. If you spin it in a positive way, we're top of the bottom half. So maybe you know that's something to grab onto at least. But yeah, a kind of a familiar story with the game against Villa. A lot of chances in that first half, didn't take them. Make a really poor defensive error, get punished, and then we don't come out for the second half. And that's just kind of that's life at the moment for Chelsea under Graham Potter, is that we do create decent opportunities. We should be with prolific or proficient, should I say, players in the final third. That we should be 2-0 up in that game, 2-0 up in the first half an hour. And one thing I would slightly defend him on is the fact that he can't make the players score those chances. Yes, if things are going well and you're more confident, then you're probably more likely to score. In Mudrik's case, you take an extra touch or two in that chance where he's through. But this is just what's happening at the moment. When your luck's out, your luck's out. And, nothing's going right at the moment. But the bigger concern for me is that it's not missing the chances, because we are creating them. And that's been a big problem for us in the past. But now that seems to be maybe a little bit less of an issue. The fact is that we are not coming out for games in second halves. And that's a massive problem, because it's like you get a half decent first half performance. You come out at half time for the second half. It's like a completely different team. It's like, I don't know what's been said in there. I don't know what goes on in there. Do the energy levels? I don't know what it is, but it is a recurring theme that every time we come out for a second half, we just seem to be so much worse. But I mean, there's lots to get into. The Villa game, the board's still backing Potter at this point in time. He's gonna be in charge from Tuesday for Liverpool. Even if they weren't backing him, I still wouldn't have expected a change to take place before the Liverpool game, because you haven't got any time to do anything. But Nagelsmann links are still there. But there's loads to get into. I mean, Oli, thanks for coming as always, mate. These are becoming a regular sort of depressing
therapy
throughout
session.
The season. But you got to discuss this. You've got to turn up when things aren't going well as well. Can't just turn up when it's all fine. Let's start with, we'll get to the game briefly. Your thoughts, I mean, not really surprising, I guess, that the board are continuing to back Graham Potter. It's Ben Jacobs saying, and many others saying as well, that it is obviously business as usual at Chelsea. Potter will be in charge against Liverpool. No change planned before Tuesday's fixtures. I touched on, I think that's kind of pretty obvious, really.
Part of the course, that, yeah.
Part of the course, but also, like, as I said, like when you've played on a Saturday, who are you going to bring in charge? You'd have an assistant in charge or something, and you don't really want that, I guess. But your thoughts on it in terms of what's going on at the moment? I know obviously a lot of fans are frustrated. Football particularly gets the emotions going. We don't always speak rationally in the heat of the moment and stuff. But where do you stand
look
on
at my
this?
Twitter.
I mean, where do you stand on this? Because if we're being realistic, like the time to make a change, if they were going to do it, would have been in the international break, or it would have been after the Southampton game. Those for me would have been the times to do it. In my opinion, right now, I know people may say, "Oh, you might get a new manager bounce for a few games," but you're taking a big risk of appointing a permanent manager in April, in my opinion, when you can perhaps patch it up and soldier through to the end of the season and make a much better assessment in the summer. But then having said that, how much worse could things get?
Yeah, exactly. There's no easy answers now. That's the problem. Boehly and co, and especially Potter, have all kind of made a rod for their own backs. It seems that any direction you now go in will face criticism of some form. If you keep Potter around, people are going to criticize that. If you sack him, people might criticize, that in terms of bringing in someone new who's maybe doesn't then get a preseason, but they get more chance and more time with the squad. But then some of the players who aren't performing, who we want to leave, might get second chances, and and things like that. So there's a lot going on around the club at the moment. I think Potter should go. I just, I don't think there's any excuse for the performances, and there's no excuse for the results. I think he won't be sacked until at least we mathematically can't get into the Champions League and we're out of the Champions League. Because I don't think we're going to win the Champions League. It just seems that the season gets bleaker and bleaker every game. We had a little run. We thought this could be the time for things to change, and then we had the international break, which kind of took that momentum away, and we come back and shoddy performance against Villa, bit of a smash and grab from them. But that's what happens when you make errors and you're not concentrating. The one thing I will say about Potter is that it seems that he seems to just not be getting the lineups right. And it's very frustrating. I'm sure we'll talk about that shortly. Lots of players out of position, and then you wonder why performances are struggling when, you've got two fullbacks at centre-back, for example. I don't know. I feel very jaded about Potter at this point. I kind of sort of give up with him, because what we all know the score by now. We play a game, we either narrowly draw it or lose or, win, but it's not really all that convincing. He comes out, says the boys gave everything when they probably didn't. He protects the players, he makes excuses and nobody goes home happy. I'd rather that they just said nothing. If at the end of a press conference, Potter said, at the start of a press conference after a game, post-match presser, Potter just said, listen, things aren't going well at the moment. I'm not going to speak to you because we need to focus on our football, and that's it. And just walk off, because I'm just sick of hearing excuses about why we didn't play well, or why the expected goals of of Villa's shots were small, but sometimes that happens. It's just like, I feel like Potter's almost too nice, and he's not got that ruthless streak in it, so he's never going to throw the players under the bus. But given that just means he puts himself in front of the bus, and the bus being fans and the media, and I just think he's not cut out for it here, and ultimately it's just what it feels like sometimes. It feels a little bit like a personality clash, not between Potter and Boehly or Potter and the fans, but Potter and the club. It just feels like that. They were always destined just to not work, even after the good start he had. It's just such a shame.
Yeah, I think it's one of them for me that I'm in two minds about it. For sure, like, it's clear that what's happening now is not working. It's clear that he is out of his depth, but we knew that at the start when we appointed him. We knew he was going to be out of his depth,
but we all thought it wouldn't be this bad either.
We didn't think it would be this bad.
Maybe if we drop down into the Europa League or whatever. But we're at the bottom half of the table, Charlie.
No,
it's like it's a real disaster of a season.
It is terrible. But I mean, my point on this is that, like, I'm in two minds about it. Look, I'm not stupid enough to think that what's going on is acceptable. Of course, it isn't. You don't have to be.
It's also not 100% Potter's fault though either.
No, it's not.
But fairly or unfairly, I think the thing is the buck's
always
somewhere.
Happens. Yeah, of course it does, because you can't sack the players, you can't sack the board. The responsibility falls on the manager. But what I would say on this is, like, and it's a bit of a tricky one where I'm in kind of two minds on it, is because, as you rightly touched on, like, we've got a lot of players we want to get rid of, and that have needed to be get rid of for a long time. A new manager comes in, suddenly those players think we might have a chance now, and then, like, they might not be sold or they might be kept around. And we need to get rid of these guys. But a new manager comes in, they assess everyone. Some players will be in favour that weren't in favour beforehand, that they wanted to get rid of, and then other players that have come in are then suddenly not fancied. And this is my problem. When you back a manager so heavily and invest so much money in a manager for a long, quote unquote, long term,
you make a rod for your own back. You're in a corner then.
Yeah, you're kind of backed into a corner, because, like we saw in the summer, where Tuchel's investment was given to him and then Potter took over in September. I'm not saying he wouldn't have wanted maybe Sterling or Fofana or Cucurella or players like that, but ultimately, I think, had Potter been in charge at the start of the season for pre-season and stuff, we would have recruited very differently in the summer. And you now I
think we'd be looking at a different team, and I think we'd be looking at a different place in the table. Not to say it's all the players' fault, it's just be different.
And then you get the situation now is that, like, you've just backed Potter massively in January. You've brought in a phenomenal amount of volume of players into the club, and I don't care what sort of how good a manager you are. That's really tough to bed in that many new players mid-season.
But it's also an opportunity that no Chelsea manager has had. For
sure.
With all the talent he gets to work
yeah.
with, and he's just not getting a tune out of him. You just got to call it how you see it, right?
He's not getting a tune out of it. But then my other worry is that we've spent all this money. Like, you've made your stance. The owners, like, we want to invest in young players. We want to buy young players. We want to build a squad that's predominantly players kind of under the age of 25. That's the route you decided to take. You've bought those players in. Young players are inconsistent and will make mistakes. That's what young players do. So we have to accept that we've gone down this route, and that's what's going to happen. And you change the manager now, and another manager comes in, for example. I don't know who. Let's say a Nagelsmann comes in, because that's kind of the flavour of the month right now. Who's to say that he would fancy Mudryk, or he would fancy Madueke, or
he doesn't even play wingers very much.
He doesn't really play wingers. You only have to look at Bayern. He didn't really operate with out and out wingers, and we've just spent
was it Mane and Gnabry?
They played more like nines. Muller wasn't playing and so you look at that and you just think, well, if you bring Nagelsmann, he doesn't really play wingers, and we've just spent over 100 million on Madueke and Mudryk for the future, and you bring in a manager that doesn't really play wide
Sterling
players.
in the summer too,
and he bought Sterling in the summer. So
that's the thing, is it just seems like the approach is the approach is just a mess. The approach is a mess, and the club's a mess. Ideally, what would be the case is that the club has set up the infrastructure from the inside, that it doesn't matter who the manager is. But we've also got several of Potter's closest sort of co-workers as members of as members of that structure. So if you got that, then you're almost starting again from scratch, or at least starting from a few steps back. And it just seems like, regardless of where we go now, it's going to be at least a couple more steps back before it's going to get worse before it gets better. That's what it feels like.
No, I totally agree. And, it is tough, because in one part of me kind of admires the fact that they're prepared to stick by him through thick and thin, because you have they've got that belief in that person, or they've got belief in him. And I do kind of respect that, because
I just think it's naive,
It can be. But the answer, I think, because we're so ingrained, particularly Chelsea fans of our generation, we're so ingrained of, when something goes wrong, the answer is to get rid of the manager. I'm not saying the answer is not to get rid of Potter, but let's say Nagelsmann comes in. Obviously, we're unlikely to go for a run of form this bad. But what happens if we suddenly lose, if we go on a run where we maybe win 3 or 4 in 10?
Exactly.
People up in arms, and then are we having the same conversation again?
That's
guys,
what I mean.
Get Nagelsmann in.
Cycle,
this is what I mean. Everyone's like, get Nagelsmann, get Nagelsmann.
But the thing is,
Nagelsmann comes, and all right, things might get better. The problems don't just magically disappear as soon as he steps through the door. We're still going to have the same issues. And then as everyone that was saying that, Nagelsmann's the guy, going to be when we lose a few games and we go for a bad run, because we will, because we're still a long way from being a completed team. Suddenly, he's not good enough. We need to find someone else. When does this cycle end?
I think there's two things to that, though. I think there's always, you can back a project without backing the person who's put in charge of it. And I think that's where a lot of Chelsea fans are at now. They want this sustainable, long-term planning type of club, setup, but they don't think Potter's the guy who can do it successfully. And I'm not saying someone like Nagelsmann is either. I think what should happen is Potter should part ways with the club, whether that's now or at the end of the season. Ideally, personally, for me, that's now. And then the board do absolutely everything to nail on whoever they need to get. Make sure it's the exact the spot on correct pick, and throw as much money at them as possible. And that is the only way I think that we're going to be able to get out of that, because if it's wrong this time, it can't be wrong again. That's the crux of it, really, is that if we are gonna sack Potter, which I do think we need to do, if we get it wrong again, how many more times are we going to get it wrong and bring in the wrong manager with the wrong players and have it all set up? And you're essentially doing what Roman did towards the end without trophies, and that's even worse.
I mean, what I think does need to happen, but obviously I'm not privy to anything that's going on at senior level or boardroom level at the club, but it's
despite your best friend Todd. Boehly.
Despite my best mate Todd. Him and Boehly don't know anything about football. That's fine. Not a lot of owners do, but you've got in place a group of people that know a lot about football. So those should be the guys that, in theory, those should be the guys that make the decision and then pass that on to Todd. Because the likes of Win Stanley, the likes of Lawrence Stewart, Vivell, etc., in that structure, those are the guys that should be making the footballing decisions. Ultimately, I know it'll come down to the owner to deliver that news and take that decision, but he should be consulting with the football group and then making a decision there. It shouldn't just be Boehly making that decision on his own. I think it's important that the footballing guys that know about the game that are part of the board are making those decisions, because with the greatest respect to Boehly, he doesn't know anything about football, or not very much at this point in time.
And at the same time, Potter's had massive backing, from Boehly. So there's an investment and there's a financial element to it too. There might be certain clauses in Potter's contract that makes terminating it more financially, makes it easier financially. If we mathematically can't get Champions League, if we drop out of the UCL, don't win any trophies, that sort of thing. Where I stand with Potter is Potter should be doing any other manager. I think almost any other manager in the Premier League, I think, would be doing better with this squad. Or certainly any other manager in the top 6 would be doing better with this squad than Potter is. And I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. So if we have the weakest manager out of the top 6 and we have a young squad, we shouldn't be expecting to do great things, but we should change that then. In terms of project managers per se, I think the idea of a project manager kind of doesn't really make any sense. The idea that, this almost kind of FIFA career mode idea where you start small and you build up to Champions League glory or whatever. It's not like that. You get in a manager who's, fits the team, fits the style of play, fits the players, wants to work with the players, can motivate the players, is tactically elite, excellent at what he does, and communicates well with the board. Potter is all of those. Well, Potter is a lot of those things, but not all of those things. And unfortunately, the tactical element of that is critical. And the last part as well is charisma. He's got no charisma, and so it's so difficult to back the guy because everything he says just sounds like he doesn't give a fuck, and it's so difficult because of that.
Yeah, no, it is. It is tough for sure. I think I liken it in a similar situation, obviously not quite on the same scale, but it's similar to when Moyes replaced Ferguson. You're almost set up to fail instantly in terms of the fact that he was replacing such a well-loved manager who had built a big connection with the club, particularly what had gone on through
Tuchel replaced Lampard,
etc. He did, but let's be Lampard wasn't. Yeah, but I don't think that's quite the same. I mean, we loved Lampard because of what he did as a player. Let's be honest, like Lampard. Everyone knew that Lampard wasn't really a great manager,
but the affinity was there.
Yeah, the affinity was there. The affinity was there for sure. But I think it's not helped Potter that he's had to succeed Tuchel. I don't think that's.
If he had come in and he had started winning, I don't think anyone would be complaining.
Yeah, but 11th, again, Charlie. this is my point: is that all the things people are complaining about now in terms of like lack of charisma and etc. are things that when you're winning don't get mentioned. Like, if we're winning, he could be the most boring guy in the world and no one cares. It's all things that get. That's kind of how fickle football is. I think it's
because we're not winning, people are looking for reasons why. Is it that you can't motivate the players? Okay, well then it's charisma. Do you know what I mean?
So, no, I get what you're saying. I think the thing is, like, there's the biggest problem is there's no simple solution to this.
Yeah,
because like as we said, you're trying to do something. You're trying to get to the summer, have a massive squad clear out. And as we've said, a new manager comes in. He'll want to assess all the players, which means that squad clear out may not happen. And like there might be opportunities.
In that case, that has to happen first. It needs to be a clear out, then the manager.
Well, yeah. This is my thing. But I mean, obviously, we are where we are right now in terms of the situation that's going on. But I mean, for you, mate, who would you like to, if Graham Potter does get relieved of his duties, whenever that may be, who would you like to come in and see replace him? Obviously, right now we've got Nagelsmann available. Brendan Rodgers is actually now available. I think he could well end up at Tottenham. But for you, mate, who would be the guy that you would like to see take over if Potter is replaced eventually?
See, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? And there's been a lot of talk about this over the last couple of days, especially on Twitter, about who's good enough. And to be honest, I think the manager market at the moment is really poor.
It's not great, is it?
No, not at all. Like you see, I know people are talking about Nagelsmann, but he's got his concerns. He's got his concerns as well. I think for a lot of people, despite he essentially seems a bit to me like a German version of Potter who managed to get a job at Brighton. It almost would be like if whichever next club will hire Potter will look at it in the same way from us. That's kind of the way I see that. You got the likes of Hansi Flick and Luis Enrique, but I don't
rate Enrique.
I don't really rate either of them.
Him. No.
I don't really rate either of them to actually be elite coaches who win Chelsea multiple titles. You've got the likes of Amorim, but he's relatively unproven Portuguese manager and doesn't fit how we want to play.
I look at Amorim and think that's just as much of a gamble as Potter was.
Yeah, and then you look at so you go the complete opposite, and you go, what about Mourinho or Ancelotti? Well, Ancelotti's probably going to Brazil. Mourinho's probably a bit past it at Roma. So when you ultimately boil it down, nobody's a great option. Not really. I don't think it's fair to say that anyone's better than Potter, but that's like saying like a headache's better than a lobotomy. I'd rather have neither.
Yeah.
So. I mean, for me, where it would go is thusly. Boehly has already proven, and the board have proven, that they're willing to send stupid amounts of money to clubs for managers, and they're willing to pay managers a lot of money.
Yeah.
Given that, I think it wouldn't be completely out of the question to see if this summer, with the concerns around Man City and financial fair play, we tried to poach Guardiola. I know that, and lots of people will react to that and be like, "Oh, you're an absolute idiot. He's never leaving them. He's really loyal." I understand that, but money does talk. And given that Boehly is very liberal with throwing the cash around, if you offer Guardiola a world, a world record salary, who's to say he says no? There's every option. I think you have to. At this point, I think personally, we need an elite manager. I don't think we want someone who's young and is going to come build with the team. We need someone who's going to get the best out of the team to help the team grow, not someone who's going to grow with the team. That's not how we do things. And so I think your best option is someone who's already at the top rather than someone who might or might not be there. Everyone wants to get the next Arteta, but if you end up with the next Potter, then you're in trouble.
I think it is difficult because, as you say, the manager market and the sort of level that people would like to be looking at is pretty sparse. It really is. You look at the best managers in the world that are in the top jobs. I mean, Pep, it's going to be pretty hard to get him out of Manchester City. I don't even know if he'd come to Chelsea. Look, obviously, Tuchel, we've been and done that. You look at the likes of someone like an Erik ten Hag. He's at Man United. He's not going anywhere. Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool,
Klopp, maybe.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. I don't want to sort of talk down on Klopp, but I think he might be on a decline.
Maybe he kind of goes through cycles.
He goes through cycles, and I think it's clear that it's the end of a Liverpool cycle. I just feel with the affiliation that he's built with the crowd and with the club, I can't see him managing another Premier League team. Obviously, never say never, because I would never have thought that Kante or Mourinho would go and manage Tottenham. But I would find it hard to believe that that Klopp would manage another club in the Premier League. I could be wrong. I don't really know. And then
maybe.
But I think this is the point,
people do underestimate the amount.
There's not many of yeah.
People underestimate that money talks. Like at the end of the day, if we offered, I don't know, something stupid. If we said to Klopp, we'll give you £20 million a year, that's going to turn heads a little bit. Surely, players are the same way.
Yeah, no.
Tuchel was top before Chelsea, by the way.
Yeah, no, he was. Yeah, PSG.
You need someone of that caliber, that level. Yeah.
Problem is, as you said, there's not many of those available. And we've seen, the issue.
And partially part of the issue as well is sort of hire and fire in the past has burnt a lot of bridges.
Oh, exactly. I mean, it is new ownership now, so I guess it's kind of a different club. A lot of the same people will still be there, but in terms of the Roman regime, that is gone. So I don't know if that repairs anything potentially.
Maybe,
but again, you look at things and I see people in the chat going on about maybe it's kind of peak revisionism. We've seen that Conte's style of football doesn't He's not.
The problem with Kante
doesn't
is
work
that
anymore, and he falls out with
18 months after you sign him, you'll have a bunch of his players who aren't performing well. He'll get sacked. Then you're stuck with those players for season after season after season. Bakayoko is still on our
still a Chelsea player.
Yeah, it's still a Chelsea player even now. Drinkwater was until recently as well.
Only got rid of Drinkwater in the summer on a free.
Drinkwater was a Kante signing, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I think he was.
Kante hasn't built. I'm sorry, Kante doesn't build big projects. Kante is a come in and win in 18 months to 2 years, falls out with everyone, fucks off. Kante is not a project manager. He hasn't built anything. He didn't build anything at Inter Milan.
I don't think we necessarily
need Chelsea. No, we
don't need necessarily someone who's going to come in and build things up. We just need someone who's very, very good at what they do as a coach right now. And what that will do, that will allow the players to get the absolute best. It'll allow the players to play the best that they can play, drive up the value for those who are going to get sold in the summer, perform, win some trophies, and then if it's going well, gets rewarded with more time.
But then we have to accept that we're going to be a club then that is just going to change managers every 18 months to 2 years. Is that? But
not if we eventually land on one that we think is worth keeping around. The thing is with Potter is I think a lot of the stuff around Potter is that the time that he's been given wasn't, because of the new ownership, wasn't actually given to other managers. And I think for a lot of people, time is earned and he hasn't earned it. So if a manager can come in, win and do well and earn it, like Arteta did at Arsenal, then it's worth them sticking around.
But I know people don't like this, but could you... And I know there's not an awful lot of similarities other than the fact that Arsenal right now, Chelsea right now with Potter are kind of where Arsenal were with Arteta near the start.
But it wasn't this bad under Arteta though.
No, but the problem is that what I mean is they were hounding him out, and now they all love him. So I mean,
but he had a reason to have time. Like he got a trophy, by hook or by crook.
Anthony Taylor handed him that FA Cup.
But it got him the time he needed. Football isn't always fair.
No, it's not. I think. Yeah, I mean, what I would say is that there's a lot of people that are kind of like hating on the owners. Two things: one, complete waste of time. They're here for at least the next 10 years minimum because that was the deal, and they've done a lot of good stuff. The only thing that I do disagree with is that they should have sacked Tuchel before the season started, because
in my view, they shouldn't have sacked him at all. To be honest,
maybe not. But as we say, like if visions don't align, and when new ownerships come in, they generally tend to bring their own person in, and that's kind of, I guess that's fair enough whether we like it or not.
But bear in mind, results don't always. But bear in mind that's not always the case, because Emma Hayes is still here for the women's team.
She is still here. Yeah.
So it's not entirely a blanket rule, is it? No. I understand for the men's team and for the structure and the higher ups of the club, they've wanted to get their own people in. But it proves that if somebody is performing and doing a good job, they should stay. The difference is
sure.
Tuchel, was hitting a rough patch of form, and everyone could see it was declining.
And I think that's the key.
I don't think he was. And I think the thing is, though, is he wasn't given the chance to turn it around, and he wasn't given anywhere near the level of opportunities that Potter has had. And Potter has flunked almost every opportunity he's had. Listen, Chelsea fans have been very, very patient with him this season. They've been very patient through absolutely everything. We waited months and months and months to make sure that actually, is this guy going to be the person who we want to take forward? We saw some very good play. We've seen flashes of good form, and we've seen absolutely nothing else. And it's not enough.
No, it's not. It absolutely isn't enough. But I think ultimately we have to accept that. I think we have to accept two things. Like, I'm not saying, and no one's saying that these results are acceptable. What we also have to say is that we aren't the Chelsea that we used to be at this point in time. We just aren't, in terms of that winning mentality, like hiring and firing thing, win at all costs sort of thing. That's kind of changed. Like the standard at Chelsea, the standards haven't changed. The standard is to always win and to always have the best players and have the best in class. All right, we perhaps don't have the best in class in terms of a manager at this point in time, but the standards are the same. But we aren't at those standards right now, and I think that's okay to to not be at the standards. But it doesn't mean the standards have dropped. It's just a realization that we're not at those standards. And I think the sooner people realize that this wasn't going to carry on forever, by the way, we weren't just going to keep winning trophies and things were going to be fine. Every big team goes through a down period. Our down period so far has been, well, not even a season just yet, but when it comes to the end of the season, it will be a season. Like, considering the success we've had over the last 20 years, like, is one season of shit? Is it really that bad? Like, I'm not defending it. I'm just putting it out there. Like, is it that bad?
Peak, isn't it? It's a worse peak than other top teams have had in terms of how bad it is. The longevity might prove not to be as long. You know, it might be we're bad for a season or 2 seasons instead of 5, 7, 8 seasons like Arsenal were. But even still,
or like United have been, no, it's not good enough. But I don't know. I just feel that, like, I don't know if it's a sense of entitlement on our behalf because of all the success that we've had. But do we have a right to just think that we're going to win something every season or compete for something every season? I don't think in football you've got any rights to think you're going to compete or win anything when you go.
But I don't think it's about thinking you've got the right to it. I think it's about looking at the squad, looking at the money that's gone into it, and going, actually, we're not at the level that this squad is. The manager isn't getting the most out of the players to show that we're at the level this squad is, and we're suffering as a result. And so. That's why people are turning on the manager, because they're going, look how much money was spent. Look at all the talent that's coming. These are really good players. We've got World Cup winners in our squad. They're really, really good players. And we're just and every week against Premier League opposition with a fraction of the resources we have, we look ordinary. We look terrible.
We do look terrible, and
that's why people are turning on the manager.
And I mean,
any surprise?
No, it's not any surprise. I mean, I was there yesterday, and it was got pretty toxic in the ground. The booze at half time, booze at full time, chants of you don't know what you're doing from certain sections of the crowd. Like, it's getting pretty bad, and whether rightly or wrongly, whether you think that stuff should go on, football fans pay their money. You're entitled to express your opinion. Just to round out this section before we move on, do you think he sees out the season?
It's hard to know. He well could. I think the key will be to see what happens after we get knocked out of the Champions League, or once Champions League is no longer mathematically possible. I think the key will be to see what happens then. That the owners might have a different idea about how they want things to proceed. But for me, it can't go on. Not for me.
No,
there's a lot of emotion going around at the moment.
For sure.
And that's the thing. Sport's an emotional thing. So it's how can every fan be able to subject themselves to this stuff every week? I'm not sure they can. And I think eventually, like Boehly says, the fans' sentiment is the most important thing.
Yeah, for sure, because there is no club without the fans. And I think fan opinion is taken on board, but I think we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. But I think it could almost become untenable if we lose on Tuesday against Liverpool. I think, like, even if they want to, I think the noise would just become too much. But let's move away from this conversation about the manager, because we could chat all evening about this. Let's move on to the game. I want to start with the positive first, before we move on to a long list of things that were, quite frankly, shit, was the return of N'Golo Kante. Great to see him back after so long. And
running down the wing.
Finishing still poor as ever. But, it's not, that's the way it is at the moment. But he looks great. And I was
back up to speed.
He looked back up to speed. And then Potter was saying on Kante, you can see the quality of the player, high level. He's affected the game, gave energy, won the ball, was dynamic, everything you expect of him, which is true. And it's kind of like that's gonna be really important to have him back and fit and looking good. Were you surprised that he seemed to kind of slot back into proceedings pretty effortlessly and didn't really look off the pace at all?
No, because he's been being built up for weeks. He could have come on against Everton, but he didn't, because I think Potter wanted to preserve him. Why he was on the bench in the first place, if he was trying to be preserved, I don't know. But we had behind closed doors matches, friendlies and stuff to make sure that he was up to speed. So I'm not surprised to see him back, at a properly match fit level. It's nice to see it. I just hope that he can start soon because we're a different team. I think when he's on it.
Yeah, I think for me, mate, I think the key is in these next couple of games, Liverpool and then Wolves at the weekend, is to build him up enough with a view to starting him at the Bernabeu.
For me, I think Kante has to start against Liverpool if we've got any chance of winning that game.
Do you think so? Well, yeah, maybe, but I don't know if that's a. Yeah, I mean, we need to win that game, but
yeah, you're right. Maybe it's a risk. We don't have to win that. We do have to win against Real Madrid. But then again, if Potter gets sacked,
can you say
we can even go against Real Madrid?
I mean, can we really say we don't have to win this game? We need to win all our fucking games.
Well, yeah, exactly.
This is the problem, and then we're not really in a position to be rotating the team. We've got to play our strongest side available because we need the points.
In which case, Kante starts, right?
Yeah, it's just a case of he's not played football for so long. I mean, he played about 15, 20 minutes against yesterday against Villa. I mean, Liverpool, do you give him half an hour? And then
I think you give him a half, probably.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know how they're going to manage him, but that was a big plus to return.
Maybe a bit like Mudryk, you did sort of half an hour, and then maybe next you'd give him a half against Liverpool. Against against Wolves, you give him an hour, and then maybe you
start him in the Bernabeu.
Start him against Real Madrid. Maybe.
Yeah, it's gonna. Yeah, maybe. But that was a big plus, and I think keeping him fit for the rest of the season and building his minutes back up, getting him in a position where he can start on a weekly basis is going to be a massive, massive plus. Like you've seen the impact that Casemiro has had on Man United. Kante coming back is going to have a similar impact for Chelsea in terms of just changing that midfield a little bit more as well. But
really brings out the quality in that midfield.
It does. It looks so much better when he came on. He just breaks up. I'm not saying that Enzo and Cover aren't good at breaking up play, but no one does it quite like Kante. But no one does it quite like Kante does.
No, and nobody can, and nobody will. But yeah, I think the midfield's a lot more balanced when you've got Kante in it because Kovacic and Enzo are, in a way, very, very similar players. And neither of them are more defensively minded. Enzo is a bit more defensively minded, but I think, him sitting limits him. Once you have Kante back, Enzo gets forward a bit. Maybe that helps with our attacking play because it's been dire recently. But I don't know. There's, it's nice to see him back. I hope it makes a difference.
I mean, that was a big positive, and it's great to see him back. And hopefully, he's going to sign that new contract as well to keep him at the club for another couple of years beyond the end of this season. Wanted to talk about briefly the fact that Reece James started at right centre back. Not something we've seen for a while. I think it took people by surprise a little bit, given that Badiashile and Chalobah were both on the bench. Liam Toomey, and I'm sure you've seen it on Twitter as well. I'll just bring the article up on the screen. That's not what I was looking for. Was that what I was looking for? No, that wasn't. Basically saying that in Chelsea training on Friday, that
it was trained Chalobah, wasn't it?
Yeah, they trained with Chalobah in as part of the back three, and we got to the match. Yeah, it's up now on screen here. Where are we? Yeah, even more curious is that in training at Cobham on Friday, Chalobah was in Potter's back three. He's not started for Chelsea since the goalless draw of Liverpool at Anfield, and neither he nor Benoit Badiashile ever looked close to being introduced against Villa, despite a lack of height hampering the team in both boxes. Didn't mean to do that. Yeah, so, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, look, things can change. You can change your mind as a manager. You can, perhaps he might have picked up a little knock that we've not heard about, or maybe he's just changed his mind. I don't really know, but I mean, what are your thoughts on that? And I guess in the wider scheme of things, that Chalobah is a really good player. He hasn't really let us down at all whenever he's played under Potter or whenever he's played under Tuchel. Yet he just doesn't seem to be any ounce of favour whatsoever at the moment.
Yeah, it's bizarre to me. I think he should have played the game. Really makes sense for him to have played the game, especially with Fofana out, especially with Silva out. It seems that he just can't get a game at the moment. It was bizarre to me to see. Excuse me. It was bizarre to me to see Reece James at right centre back. Maybe it's because he wanted a bit more. Potter wanted a bit more pace down that side. Maybe he was protecting Reece James, who's just had a little slight pull, and he came out of the England squad for it, so he wanted to play him, but still in a more sedentary role instead of bombing up and down the wing. But To be honest, I think that's a foolish endeavor. It's hard to play to try and minimize injury because especially when you put Reece James at centre back, you don't get the best out of him. That's just the way it goes. He's excellent defensively. He's excellent offensively. So if you're not playing him at wing back where he can do both roles, you're essentially cutting him in half. Cutting in half what he can do. Especially and also not bringing Badiashile on, or not even having him starting, considering the brilliant start he's had. Really bizarre. Can't really explain it, to be honest, because it doesn't make much sense to me having two sort of primarily fullbacks playing at centre back. I think one is probably all right. I didn't have a problem with Cucurella starting. He's done pretty well in recent weeks in that left centre back role. But I don't think you need to have two. I don't think you need Reece and Cucurella. Well, the problem is then the only person who's a full centre back in a back five is Koulibaly, who is a liability. Let's be honest.
But he's got a mistake in him for sure. I think
exactly.
I think Fofana was a big miss.
Yeah, Fofana was a huge miss. But I think for that, we needed to be bringing someone like Trev in. I think you needed Trev on the right, you needed Badiashile on the left, and Reece at right wing back. And I think that would have been a lot more solid a display. I don't think we would have seen the same mistakes. I don't think we would have been carved open as easily either. So, for me, it maybe, I don't know, maybe there's always something we don't know, maybe
sure.
There was a conversation or something that happened, something that changed Potter's mind last minute. But for me, I think the fact that he changed his mind, he got it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, of course, hindsightism, if that's even a word, I've just made it a word, is great because, you look back on it and that, to us, that information, if we win that game, I doubt that information even comes out, if we're being honest.
Maybe not.
Because it doesn't serve a purpose.
But it's like a little tactical tweak from Potter that's unnecessary, isn't it? I think it was something like 6 out of the 11 players in the game against Villa were out of position, not playing in their natural position for
that's not a new thing either. That's not a Potter thing. That was a thing under Tuchel as well.
But is it any wonder why when we're struggling if that's what's happening? Because players aren't used to playing in those positions, And the thing is as well, with Cucurella, as again, he's another player who's got a mistake in him. We kind of bought him to be this kind of mix of a left back and a left centre back, and unfortunately for me, it just seems like he's not really that great at either of them. So it is what it is.
Yeah, it's tough, but I mean, let's briefly address the game. I don't want to spend hours bogged down on it. Kind of a standard thing, First, I'll be honest, mate. I actually thought we played pretty well in the first half.
Yeah, thought we were going to win it in the first half. To be honest,
yeah, we created bucket loads of chances, enough chances to score at least 2 to 3 goals,
and it's the same old story.
And as usual, can't finish any of them. And we make a calamitous defensive mistake and allow Villa to score. Fair play to Villa. They played pretty well yesterday. They were good on the counter-attack. They took the opportunities that they had.
Played right off of the centre-backs, did a really good job.
Yeah, and they defended really well. But, mate, I'm slightly concerned that why suddenly so many individual errors seem to be creeping in at the back, because we've
been
pretty solid. But I mean, we'll get to the front in a sec. But just on the back, because we've been pretty solid defensively this season under Potter as well. Been pretty solid defensively. All of a sudden, last couple of games or so, last 2 home games, there's been 3 defensive errors that have cost us 3 goals.
Hasn't Badiashile barely played in those games? I'm wondering if missing him and missing Thiago Silva. Did he not play against?
Did Badiashile not play against Everton? I'm pretty sure he did. I mean,
he might have played against Everton. Yeah, he might have played against Everton.
But I think the biggest one is that Thiago Silva's not playing.
Yeah. It's huge. Missing him is absolutely massive. Koulibaly, we thought maybe he could be a good replacement. Or like someone who can sort of marshal that central defensive role. I don't think he was as bad as Cucurella was yesterday, but he still wasn't very good. And it just shows that I don't think he's not got that leadership stake in him, because he does make mistakes. You can't lead by example if you're the one messing up.
Yeah, for sure. And he's that responsibility is on him. That onus is on him, because he's that guy. He's the senior centre back, the leader of that back line. And when you've got a leader of the back line that's got a mistake in him and is a bit shaky like Koulibaly is, hardly breeds confidence into the rest of your defence.
And as well, I know it sounds harsh, but having someone like Kepa in goal as well means everyone's a bit erratic, because what happens if a shot goes off? Well, it would probably go in.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness to Kepa, I don't think yesterday particularly, there's nothing he could do about either goal.
I disagree.
Really.
I think he absolutely
Well,
should save
which
McGinn's
one?
shot.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Like,
I'd
I
have
think
to. I
I
don't know if
think
I've
for
watched that
Watkins
back.
is one. For Watkins is one. I think it's a bit of miscommunication at the back as what's happened, and also Kepa's come out because of that miscommunication, and that's just
Yeah,
unlucky. You know, that's one of those things that just happens in football
yeah,
sometimes. Second goal, he's got to be doing better for me. You know, it seems Kepa has this excellent talent where he makes very easy shots against him look unsavable. The shot wasn't even going that fast. It was placed well by McGinn, but if Kepa had set
yeah. He's
himself
almost
properly,
passed it into the corner.
if Kepa had set himself properly and gotten over there and actually leapt for it, I think he gets there. Like he just always seems to flounder for these long shots for some reason. I don't know if he's just got slow reactions or what, but like it doesn't seem to be the case because he can always save stuff up close. You know, it's always from far away. Does he have bad eyesight? I don't know. You know, like it
Yeah,
just seems so strange that a goalkeeper can save lots of shots up close. The second it comes outside of the box, it's suddenly a problem for him. I just don't get it. And the problem is like I say, that doesn't breed confidence in defense. If every time someone's near the edge of the box, everyone gets really erratic because if there's a shot that goes off, it might go in. You know,
yeah.
Kepa just doesn't breed confidence in the back line that way.
Mate, I'll just brief diversion. Chelsea deal's almost completed for Ecuadorian wonder kid Kendrie Pies, as revealed back in February. He's 15 at the moment. He'll join when he turns 18. Package could reach 20 million euros.
One for the future. Great.
One for the future.
See him in a few years.
See him in a few years. Yeah, that's another one wrapped up.
Yeah.
Fair. Let's see how good he looks. But yeah, that deal is now done. It was obviously reported back in February. But yeah, Kendrie Pies is now done. Mate, what are your thoughts on the Ben Chilwell disallowed header? Because I was right down the other end, and I thought it looked a bit harsh. But having seen a replay, I think maybe it perhaps wasn't as harsh as I initially thought. I mean, do you think we've been a bit hard done by there?
A bit frustrating, I think, one of them. And I think the frustration more comes from the ref's inconsistency because Chilwell is, you know, Chilwell got pushed over in a similar manner on the edge of the box. You know, it wasn't. I know he was claiming for a penalty, but it wasn't inside the box. It was on the edge of the box, and he got pushed over in a similar way, and the ref didn't call it. You know, didn't give anything. So then for it to happen the other way
yesterday, to be honest.
Yeah. So, you know, for it to go the other way, as he's jumped up, he's given Ashley Young a bit of a push to probably more for leverage than anything else. Although you know, I wanted to punch him at the end of yesterday's game, to be honest.
Yeah, Ashley Young was on the wind up.
Yeah. For me, I think it's really harsh from the ref. You know, based on an inconsistent performance from the ref, it's harsh of him to give one and not the other. I think you've got to do both or neither for me.
And just on the Mings handball in the second half as well, that happened right in front of me. I thought it was a handball. Haven't watched any of it back, so I didn't want to put myself through it again. But do you think we were a little bit hard done by there?
It's a little harsh because he's kind of like on the floor. His arm's sort of in a natural position. It's a tough one. That's the sort of one that can go either way, to be honest. You know, a lot of people, there'll be a lot said about it, but I think really probably the ref in that situation knows more than the rest of us.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, to be honest, mate, other than that, not really an awful lot happened from a Chelsea perspective. So, I mean, just this disappointing day. But let's move into these player ratings then to round this out. Guys, keep smashing the likes on the stream. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We'd really appreciate it. Just hit that subscribe button. Looking to get to 3K subscribers by the end of the season. We're not a million miles away now, so let's keep pushing. Please hit that subscribe button. Would be greatly appreciated. And get involved in the comments and in the chat with your thoughts on the player ratings as well. Oli, we touched on Kepa. Didn't really... I'll be honest, it's a bit of a weird one because outside of the goals, I can't really remember him having to do that much.
Yeah, I think the only influence he really had on the game was conceding twice.
Yeah, I
says a lot. I guess.
Agree. Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, he wasn't dreadful yesterday at all.
No, he wasn't horrible, but I think for me, I think some people could be harsh on him and say that he should have saved the first one. I think that's harsh. He should come out when it looks like Watkins is one-on-one like that. You know,
Yeah.
he can't stay where he is. He can't expect someone like Koulibaly to get back. You know, he'd probably just foul him and get him a red card. So, you know, so I understand. For me, McGinn's one. Like, he makes some of these long shots look absolutely unsavable, and we've seen Mendy save them. That's all I'm going to say is we've seen Mendy save what for Kepa is unsavable, and for me, he's just nowhere near good enough to be Chelsea's number one, even in the short term, let alone the long term. I think especially over the last several games, he's really reverted to type, made a massive mistake against Everton, which lost us the game, well, drew us the game, but effectively dropped us the points. And then this one against McGinn, I know a lot of people will say it's a wonder strike. It's really well placed by McGinn, but it's not going that quickly. I promise you, if you watch the replay, like I say, he places it well, but Mendy saves that. That's all I'm going to say. You know, I think both. Given that, I think he was quite poor. I would say give him a 4 maybe, because, you know, maybe a 3 even, because I think he's got to save that for me, you know, especially because the second that goal goes in, it's game over, heads down.
And it was like we were waiting to bring Kante on at that point, and then they score from that corner, and the game's completely different, which is annoying.
It is. Like you say, it's fine margins in football, but that's why I am sometimes on your show quite harsh on Kepa, because he always seems to get shafted by that fine margin. And it, you know, eventually, if it happens so much, it's not bad luck. It's just who he is. He's had a good season this season, but recently he's reverted to type for me.
Yeah, to be honest, I think both goalkeepers ultimately aren't good enough to be Chelsea number one if we're serious about winning big trophies.
I think Mendy has the ability to be, if he wants, but this contract stalemate, him being injured, seems like a lot of hullabaloo.
Kind of forgotten he almost plays for the club at the moment, if we're being honest.
Yeah, and it's a shame because we know at his best, he's one of the best in the world. And, you know, to be honest, he'll probably end up going somewhere else and doing really well, which is a shame.
Even at his best, I just don't look at him as a Premier League winning goalkeeper.
And I think it's frustrating as well that people harp on about him with his distribution. Yeah, it's not good. We all know it's not good. But to be honest, a goalie who's good with his feet and rubbish with his hands is essentially a midfielder. You know, you may as well have, you know, Jorginho in goal.
Yeah, no, I get your point. I think like the goalkeeper is a tricky situation though, because like to get a significant upgrade in the number one position, you're shopping on a very small list.
Yeah, the market's dry. There's that Mike Maignan. I think he's probably one of the better ones.
I'd say Maignan is Magic Mike is probably
he's up there.
He'd be one of the he'd be a very good choice. But then you're looking at like Ter Stegen, Jan Oblak. These are going to cost big money.
But do you know what I think is an excellent idea? It'll be hard now that Tuchel's gone to Bayern, but if you could get Manuel Neuer out, because he's not been happy, you know, get him as a stopgap for a couple seasons.
It might change, yeah.
Yeah, if you can get...
I wouldn't be against
Neuer as a stopgap for a season or two. He's older, but he's not out of his prime in terms of...
what about someone like Keylor? What about Keylor Navas as well? He's out of favour at PSG. He's a very good goalkeeper. Obviously, I know he's on loan at Forest for the second half of this season.
Well for Forest.
I mean, would that be a disaster for 1 or 2 seasons?
No, that's what I'm saying.
I think it would. You know,
but do you see what I'm saying when we talk about like the confidence that a decent keeper gives the defense?
Oh, it's massive.
How much less erratic does likes of Koulibaly and Cucurella look if someone like Manuel Neuer's in there or Keylor Navas is in there?
I mean, fear breeds fear, doesn't it? You know, if you're not confident in your keeper and if the keeper's not confident in the back line, it's just a recipe for disaster. Like,
exactly.
It really is.
For me, yeah, Kepa's not the one to go forward. I think someone like Neuer would be great for the now. Someone like Maignan is good for the now and great for the future. Someone like Slanina is great for the future. You know, there's a lot of good options, just not right this second. So I think, you know,
and that's the thing.
I think Neuer or Navas would be an excellent shout.
Yeah, no, I do agree, mate. I do agree on that. Let's move on then. Reece James played right centre back. I mean, Mendy didn't win us the Champions League. He was part of it and he contributed massively, but he didn't win it for us. It was a team collection. But he was very good for sure. But no one player wins it. It's a collective. But he contributed massively for sure. Mate, Reece James, I didn't think he was that great, if I'm being real. New blonde hairstyle.
I think he's still a little bit. I think he's still a little bit unfit from his knock.
I think he's about. He looks like he was a yard or so off it.
About 75%, I think.
Yeah, obviously it's hard for him to influence the game as much from that right centre back role. I'm not really sure. I haven't come across any explanations as to why he played there. On my travels across the internet, but if anyone's
the only thing I can
idea,
think of is that Potter's just trying to protect him by giving him a slightly less intensive position to play in. But it seems a bit bizarre. Like if you really wanted to rest him, put him on the bench. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
and I know and I know that sounds harsh as well, because then if we lose, why wasn't Reece James playing, all the rest of it? But if you really want to rest him. Don't play him.
No, I agree. I agree, mate. In terms of his performance, it wasn't dreadful. He got forward quite well at times, a couple of half decent balls into the box, but he didn't defend particularly badly. But ultimately, there wasn't really much there. I'd probably just say it was average. I'd probably give him a 5.
Yeah, I would do the same. About 5. Made a couple good tackles at times. Did what was expected of him and absolutely nothing else. I think he's totally wasted at right centre back, to be honest. Unless you're against someone like Vinicius or or someone who's absolutely going to tear down that side. And
do you know what would be interesting on that? You mentioned it. Sorry, mate, Vinicius. Obviously, in the Bernabeu last season, we saw that was the last time Reece James played right centre back, and it was because it was to combat Vinicius. I wonder, throwing it ahead.
Maybe that's why he played there. It's a trial.
If we might see that again.
Maybe that's what it is. Instead he'll say, Potter's going, I'll give you a go there because I think you're going to be playing there in a few weeks. I want to get you up to speed in that position for that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe that's the case, but it'd be helpful if they just came and said that. I know they don't have to say everything, but like it makes it a bit easier. But let's wait and see. Not the best from Reece James yesterday, but he'll have better games for sure.
Yeah, hopefully he can just shake being unfit, man. Like he just needs to stop getting these knocks. Needs a new personal trainer. I think he needs
I think what he needs to do is get surgery on that hamstring in the summer. And I think if we had,
I think he could also. I know people joke about obese James or whatever. I imagine. I think it would be easier if he lost a little bit of muscle. Actually, I know that sounds silly because his physicality is such a big part of his game, but it probably puts a lot of pressure on his joints and stuff.
Quite possibly, but I think, to be honest, mate, if we were in a better situation this season, we probably would have just sent him for surgery. If Gusto was here, I think we would have just done it.
If Gusto was here, we would have done it already for sure. Yeah. I think that's the thing. It's frustrating because arguably now would be the best time for him to do it in a way.
Yeah,
but not while the Champions League is still technically available.
That's definitely not. I mean, let's move on to Koulibaly, mate. Obviously at fault with the mix-up there with Cucurella for goal for Watkins.
I personally think that that's Koulibaly's ball. I think Cucurella makes more of a mistake than that.
Yeah, because he's on the stretch for it. Cucurella,
yeah, but both of them
miscommunicate
for it. Obviously,
that's the big problem. Is the lack of communication for that ball.
It's a miscommunication, but I actually think it's not. It's like 70-30 or 75-25 in favor of Cucurella, of whose fault that is. Koulibaly should shout for it, especially being the senior player. But
I mean, in fairness,
but also Cucurella should know better. So
yeah. I mean, just on Bettinelli is staying because he just signed a new contract on last week.
My God,
signed a new contract until 2026. I didn't realize he's still only 30.
Yeah,
choice keeper just
does really well as like he fills that homegrown position so well.
No, he does, mate. He's picked up the mantle from Rob Green perfectly.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. Hopefully he does the same thing. And do you remember when Rob Green spoke to Sarri and was like, "What are you going to do? Drop me? This isn't working."
Mate, it was so. Mate, when we won that Europa League under
that.
Yeah, I mean, when we won that Europa League under Sarri, it was so good that they got Rob Green to lift the trophy.
Oh, I love that. Love Rob Green, legend of the club, of course.
Koulibaly, James was a 5 for me, mate. I think Koulibaly could be verging on a 3.5 or a 4.
I think it's a 4. I don't think he was as poor as Kepa was. No, I don't think he was worse than Kepa. Certainly,
no, I don't either. I think a 4 is fair on that one.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time the whole back line, including James at time, looked quite erratic. It looked quite disorganized, and that's partially because 3 out of the 5 of them are playing out of position as well.
Let me just get to this. Know yourself. Big up, bro. Thanks for tuning in. Do you see Hutchinson getting another go in the first team? I want to see him on the pitch. Another go at
Won't
some
happen
point.
this
Yes.
season.
This season, absolutely not. Whilst we're in the shit like we are, it's not going to happen this season.
He'll probably get a loan next summer.
Yeah,
probably.
I think that's the next step for the likes of Hall and the likes of Hutchinson. They need to go on a championship loan next season.
I think Hutchinson needs a championship loan and Hall needs a Premier League loan. I think that's.
I don't know. A Premier League loan for Hall, somewhere like Burnley would be good.
Yeah, that'd be great. But then again, it might be nice to loan Maatsen back again. For one more go.
Yeah, for sure.
But just to show if he's ready for Premier League. I don't know.
Hutchinson won't play for Chelsea first team again this season. I'd say that's highly unlikely. And a loan next season is most likely in that situation. Cucurella then, another one. Hutchinson was really close to joining West Brom on deadline day in January.
Was it Reading? I thought it was
Reading. No, it was West Brom.
It was West Brom. Okay.
Yeah, because Cassidy joined Reading.
That was it. Yeah,
it was really close. I don't know why it fell through. I'm not really sure why it fell through. Or they cancelled it.
Yeah, I don't think it was rejected. It might have been there was just other stuff going on. It was on deadline day, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what it was. Daniel, we'll get to Mudryk in a sec, mate. Cucurella, mate, obviously at fault for the goal as well with Koulibaly. I felt at times he defended reasonably well.
He looked lost out there to me. He looked totally lost.
It's weird with Cucurella because there seems to be no consistency, and this seems to be a recurring theme. Had a really good few games against Dortmund, Leicester, and Everton, and then this kind of just seems to reverted back to type again.
Yeah, really strange one. Don't know why he's getting in the, especially in the league. I don't know why he's playing over Badiashile. Makes no sense to me, especially because he doesn't have the height. But even for the height purposes, if Badiashile completely gets that communication wrong, like Cucurella did, and comes over, he heads that, and it probably just goes back into midfield. But because Cucurella's not tall enough, that when he heads it, it bounces off the top of his big bonce afro and bounces straight through for Watkins for a one-on-one with Kepa, and then the game's completely, the game completely changes from there.
It's different.
Unfortunately, because of that, for me, I want to give Cucurella a 3 because he really affected the game in a negative way.
There wasn't a lot of positive contribution, as it were.
No, and going forward, he wasn't good either. It's
he just looked lost.
Yeah, exactly. He just looked like he didn't really know what he was doing, and that's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. That is a real shame. I would personally agree on the 3. I think he just wasn't at it yesterday. That's the reality. Let's push through these then, mate. Ruben started at right wing back. Couple of nice bits, couple of nice runs. I think he got through pretty well. Look, do you know what? We know Ruben fills in quite well in that right wing back role. He wasn't a disaster yesterday.
Yeah, he did all right, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did all right. But you can obviously tell when James is not there how much different it is. That's the problem.
Yeah, and that's a testament to how good he is as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I actually don't think Ruben was that bad yesterday. I really don't. I don't think he was any worse than James.
No, I would say the same. In fact, I would say he was actually maybe a little bit better than James because a few times he got forward well. It's harsh because it may be a bit harsh on James because he's playing in a reduced role where he is and he can't affect the game as much. But Loftus-Cheek got himself up the pitch quite well, did a few good dribbles and stuff, managed to get into nice attacking positions. It's always the same story with Loftus-Cheek though. Final ball, final shot, just not there.
Yeah, I've been saying that his entire career basically at Chelsea.
But,
but that's the way it goes. Chile on the other side. Chile's been in really good form for us in the last 4 games. Definitely in terms of Leeds, Dortmund, Leicester, and Everton, been in great form. I don't think he was as good yesterday as he has been in previous games. I thought he was still pretty decent. Obviously, does a really well with that header for the disallowed goal. He defends well. He gets forward well. Delivery into the
always
box
attacking,
decent,
always making things happen.
Yeah, I think he was all right yesterday. Not as good as he has been by his standards in previous games, but I thought he was pretty good.
I thought he was maybe our best or second best player yesterday. But I don't think anyone was all that good.
No.
But having said that, yeah, probably one of our better players for sure yesterday. Always industrious, always working hard, always gets himself into good attacking positions like he needs to. Defends well as well. Really marauds up and down that left-hand side very well. Not his greatest game yesterday, and the result reflects that. But yeah, 6.5 I think is about
I think
fair.
6.5 is yeah.
Been snatching at his shots a little bit though. Needs to be a bit more clinical with his shooting. That's one thing.
Yeah, his finishing generally on the whole has been pretty good so far.
Really good
Enzo
header for his goal that was disallowed.
Enzo, I'm not sure of his his performance was affected by meeting me pre-game, but who knows? Again, not. I don't think he was. Look, it wasn't like anything to sort of marvel over. But again, it was another efficient, solid performance from Enzo. I don't think there was an awful lot missing from that. Again, there were some nice long passes, some nice crossfield balls.
Was he the one who passed the ball through to? Was he the one who passed the ball through to Mudryk for his chance?
I'll be honest, mate, I can't remember.
The one where Mudryk was running, got through between their centre backs and took the shot early, and it went straight at the keeper.
It could have been him. But look, do you know what? I think Enzo. To be honest, since Enzo's come in, I actually think he's done really well. And the funny,
he's looked like top 3 player in terms of talent at the club.
Yeah, he's looked really good, and he's made a big difference straight away. But in terms of yesterday, I just think, like a lot of players yesterday, I just think just above average for him. I'd probably give him a 6.
Yeah, 6 is fair, I think. Bit of a referee's performance, a little bit from Enzo, in terms of the good referee's performance, in that I didn't really notice him until a few key moments. But he didn't do anything bad, and everything I did notice, he was decent enough.
What we got here? Some Villa fans in the house. Yep, they've been giving me some banter in the comments as well on the vlog.
Well done, we're all depressed.
If you haven't checked the vlog, if you haven't checked the match vlog from yesterday, guys, it's on the channel now. Make sure you go and check it out. Would really appreciate
that attention you ordered, mate. There you go.
Yeah, there it is. Watkins better than Felix. Watkins, to be fair, I wouldn't.
You know
say
what? You're not wrong.
Better than Felix.
Yeah,
I think Watkins is a really good. I think Watkins is a really good player. I mean, I'm not saying he'd be a player that would play at Chelsea, but I think he's a player that could play. I don't want to be disrespectful to Villa, but a player that you could see at a club higher up the table. I think you could see him.
But you
somewhere.
know what? Villa are doing some good things this season. They're slowly climbing the table.
Things.
Emery, weren't they like really low when Emery took over?
I think when Gerrard got sacked, Villa were just above the drop zone, or they might have been like 17th or something. I mean, I could be wrong there, but I think things weren't going well.
They weren't doing very well, and I think it's something like since Potter's been appointed, Aston Villa have been on the form table something like 3rd. Like ridiculous.
I mean,
really,
but also
really well.
like the stat was since Emery's come in, is that only Arsenal have picked up more points than Villa. That's it.
Yeah,
only Arsenal.
Emery's a quality coach. I know he gets memed for his time at Arsenal when he wasn't ready, but he's an excellent coach for that level of club, for sure.
I think he's really good. I do like him. They were 16th, 17th when Gerrard was sacked. I mean, I was up at Villa Park in October, enjoyed giving Stevie G the sacked in the morning chance. Life comes at you fast. But there we go.
Big up the Villa fans. You had a good game yesterday.
Yeah. What I would say, the Villa fans yesterday, they were class. Really good, the Villa fans. So fair play to them. Great day out for them. And just a shame it was at our expense, but that's just the way it is at the moment. Cover, captain aside again. I thought he was quite good yesterday. I'd say he was probably on a par with Enzo. I don't think there was an awful lot between the two. Some of his shooting was very wayward, but
that's cover.
That's cover in a nutshell. I mean, what were your thoughts on him, mate? I don't think he was necessarily better than Enzo. I just think it was.
Yeah, I
just think it was just a standard cover performance.
Yeah, I think standard cover performance is fair. I think he's done all right since he's got the captaincy, to be fair to him, and I'm one of his bigger critics. So I think he's done all right recently. Wish he would put in some of the performances for us that he puts in for Croatia, but that is what it is.
Goals for Croatia,
yeah, unbelievable. But I think he's done all right. I think that I don't like the Enzo Kovacic midfield at all, and you could see why in the game yesterday. Is like it was all action, but we were running through them, they were running through us. There was absolutely no control at all, especially in times of the first half and later in the second half as well. There's just no control to that midfield, which is why I really liked it when Kante came on, because he really made that he really made things improve, I think. But yeah, fine performance, about the same as Enzo, about a 6, I think, from Cover.
Yeah,
nothing bad, nothing great.
No, I agree, mate. Let's rattle these last 3 off. Then the front line. Let's start with Joao Felix. Then, as his name is actually said. It feels weird saying it like that, but that is
Joao Felix.
So there we go. I do like him. I understand people's frustrations with him. The fact that there is a lack of end product during the club. It's not that seems to be the Chelsea thing at the moment with forward players.
That's something unique to him, though, to be fair.
No, it's not unique to him at all. And what I would say is that I think since he's come in, I think he has brought the level up in the attack. You can see he's a very intelligent footballer. You can see he reads the games well. His runs between the lines are good. He's good with the ball at his feet. It's just a bit of frustration for me that his end product's not better, but I do like him. Whether we sign him permanently in the summer, that's a different question, a different scenario, depending on price and whatnot. But I do like him. I do think he has had a positive impact at the club. But in terms of yesterday, I think good in moments, wasteful in others. I think is kind of how I would sum up his afternoon. Yeah, but he's not the only one. If we're being fair. Yeah. I mean, what are your thoughts on him, mate? What did you think of him yesterday?
Thought he was actually quite good yesterday. Thought arguably probably our best player yesterday. Actually, was trying to make things happen. I've sort of worked this out. I think he's like an attacking version of Kovacic in that he's good with the ball at his feet. He dribbles really well, and there's just absolutely nothing going on in front of goal. Really does well to make things happen. Bit wasteful. Thought he was probably our best player yesterday, though. Wish he'd released the ball a little bit more. Wish he'd look up a little bit more for a pass instead of dribbling. But you know what? He was trying to make things happen. Had a few good shots on goal that were saved by Martinez. I give him a 7.
Yeah, I think he was. I think he was half decent. I think 7 would probably make him our best player on the day. I don't think that's actually too outrageous, to be honest.
No, it was him or Chile. I think really.
Yeah, I want to move on to Mudryk quickly. A lot of kind of criticism coming his way, and I do want to actually stick up for him a little bit, because I feel that I don't feel he's been managed in the best way in terms of he's in the team, then he's out the team for a few weeks, and then he's this and then he's that. I think for me personally, I think the worst thing that could have happened to Mudryk was being so good in that cameo at Liverpool, because that just raised the expectation. I know it sounds silly, but that's raised the expectation. And again, this guy's a young player. He's just come in. He's played no football since November. The Ukrainian league to the Premier League is a madness. Like, the step up in class is just
but he was good in the Champions League, though, wasn't he?
He was good in the Champions League. I just think he's another one where he just needs time. He needs time and he needs patience.
He's on an 8-year contract. We didn't really buy him for now. Yeah. It would be nice to see him kick on a little bit, because he has played a little bit more now. I think soon questions might have to be asked soon. I thought he was getting himself into good positions, though. The finishing, I think, will come. I think nobody at the club at the moment is doing well in that department, so it's unfair to single him out for that.
I would agree.
Either way, should score. Should definitely at least square it to Havertz for his early on chance. Should definitely do better with the one he was let through 1-on-1. That is what it is. He'll get more chances. He's lightning quick. So not his best game.
I've got no worries about him.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Is like, well, if he could have 10 bad games, he's still here for 8 years. Who cares? Like, he's clearly got talent. Everyone knows it. He's clearly lightning quick.
And as we said, he wasn't signed to make an impact now. Yeah, of course, you want him to make an impact now, but he was signed. I think we signed him now because we didn't want to miss out on him. Like, he's not signed to make an immediate impact. It's a massive plus if he does, but he's signed for what he can do over the next couple of seasons and years. That's what he's been
I mean,
signed
given
for.
that, then that, you do have to ask the question of Potter is why is he playing? If in that case, but I think that's not necessarily always a fair question. I think Potter wants to get the best out of him. He's clearly got a really good attitude. I think just
he's working hard.
I think the thing is
hard.
I think I think most people will define his performance by 2 chances that he probably should have have done better with. He's still rusty, still young, still green.
But what I would say is,
if he gets an assist for that first one, scores the second one, everyone's saying he has a 10 out of 10 performance. So I'm not going to judge him too harshly. I'd say he got a 5.
But what I would say is as well is that it's a plus that he's actually getting in those positions in the first place. That's important as well. That is important. All right, it's not great to be missing the chances, but at least you're getting in the position to get those chances. And the more good positions you get in, and the more chances you have, the more likely you'll be to score. Right, Havertz to round this one out, mate. He was looking to get 4 goals in a row for the first time in his Chelsea career. It didn't happen. I don't know. I just thought this was kind of just average Havertz, really.
Kind of a ghost performance from him.
There just wasn't really anything. There wasn't really anything there. I don't know if he was still maybe feeling the effects a little bit of that illness that made him pull out of the Germany camp early. I don't really know, but he just looked a bit flat to me.
Yeah,
there wasn't much there.
A little bit flat. Didn't lead the line as well as he has been recently. I think he's much better in this right-hand channel than he is in the centre. I don't know why.
I think he actually. I mean, I've got that set up wrong. I think he did actually start on the right.
Okay, yeah, okay. Well, if I saw him on the right a little bit, but he seemed central quite a lot during the game. I don't know. I think he runs that right channel much better than he does anywhere else. I think he probably didn't benefit all that much from having Loftus-Cheek on that side when he was on the right. And then Kovacic
they all
as well.
Seem to be getting in each other's way down there.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're all getting in each other's way.
They're all like kind of in each other's way. Like Ruben was there, and then Havertz was there, and then James was like just behind them. It's like they're all just in the way of each other. Really.
You got Mudryk and Chilwell occupying a similar space, and Enzo trying to pass into that space. Havertz drifting in there as well. Cucurella's trying to overlap at times. I don't know. It seemed a bit of a disjointed performance from him. I'm not going to judge him too harshly because let's be honest, nobody played well. No one had a great game. So
I'd say average
5. Yeah,
5. Yeah, I think a 5 is fair. That rounds out the player ratings. Then fairly average day at the office, I think, is the general consensus there. Pretty much seems like a good way to round this one out. Then, I mean, there's another game Tuesday. We've got Liverpool at Stamford Bridge coming up Tuesday night. Massive game. Graham Potter press conference tomorrow at 1:30. See what he has to say there. But it's a huge.
Don't think anyone's looking forward to that one.
No, probably no. I would agree. But just one thing on the presses to round out is that the televised presser is always quite boring. If you actually, when they have the non-televised section, the one where they speak to the written press, the embargoed quotes that come out and later on that evening, you get a lot more in-depth stuff there. I think it's the same with a lot of managers. I think it's almost like they just do that one, the TV one, because they have to, because they just have to, basically. Mm-hmm. And you actually get a lot more insight in the section to the written press, which is obviously not televised. I mean, I know that doesn't really help anyone who's watching the televised version, but I think they just do that because they have to, basically. Is kind of how I view it. But yeah, great. Another game against Liverpool tomorrow. Disappointing afternoon/evening at the Bridge yesterday.
Standard Chelsea. Standard Chelsea. Of course, business as usual, as the owners might say.
Business as usual, and it could be business as usual on Tuesday with another L if we're not careful. So, yeah, big couple of days coming up for the club. Massive in terms of Graham Potter's future. I'll be back, guys. I'll be back tomorrow because we'll have a Liverpool preview. For
you lucky people.
Game. You lucky people. Don't say I don't treat you well, guys. A Liverpool preview, listening to me and I don't know who, chatting all things Chelsea again with a looking ahead to the Liverpool game. So, guys, make sure you tune in for that one. Gary El Sakako on Tuesday. Could be.
Yeah, El Trapaco more like.
I don't think anyone's going to... I don't think FSG would ever sack Klopp. I just don't see it. But let's wait and see. it's definitely a battle of two of the league's.
I'll be honest, if they
worst
do sack
teams.
Klopp, we should be all over it.
Yeah, I don't think they will, but let's definitely see what happens in that one. But guys, thank you for tuning in. Great show tonight. Enjoyed it as always. Thanks for getting involved in the chat. Big up to the Villa fans, by the way, as well. Great to have you on board, even though you did do a job on us yesterday. All the best for the rest of the season, guys. And for myself, I'll be back tomorrow. Make sure you check out the match vlog from yesterday as well if you haven't done so already. It's over on the channel now. Make sure you check Oli out on Twitter as well, linked in the description and on his screen name. So make sure you check him out, mate. Thank you so much for your time. Massively appreciated, as always. Guys, on the way out, smash the likes on the stream. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Spread the word. I'm trying to get to 3K subscribers by the end of the season. We're doing pretty well at the moment. We're about less than 400. Yeah, so
not too many Charlie, guys.
Yeah,
Charlie
job,
puts
guys.
a lot of effort in for these streams. You know, he does a really good job. You know, you should be subscribing to him. Watch his videos. Give him a like. Give him a follow.
Yep, guys, do that stuff. You can also follow me on Twitter as well. I'm nearly at 2K, so if you want to help me get there as well, I'd rather you sub to YouTube, but if being generous, you might as well do both. So yeah, Twitter's linked in the description and on my display name. I'll be back tomorrow, as I said. Oli, thanks for your time as always, bro. Guys,
All right, mate.
Catch you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Up the Chelsea.